What's going on YouTube? Joe here. I want to give you guys a quick update on what I'm going to be bringing to the MCAS auction, Motor City Aquarium Society. They got an auction coming up this Saturday. Most of you will probably see this video after the auction. That's okay. I'll still have most of the fish available. And I also want to give you guys an update on, I've had quite a few requests on my automatic water change, which is over here, but it all starts behind you. So why don't we get to that? Anytime my subscribers have a question, I want to address it. So it all starts right here. Let's walk it down. This is my main water system coming into my house. It comes up here. I cut into the pipe, teed it in to this A.O. Smith carbon block filter. This isn't that tall. Let me see if I can so it's only about knee high. It's not a huge water filter. I don't know if you guys could see that. So I got a new tripod here, so I'm trying that out. But basically, I got a valve up here shutting it off. This is a bypass valve. And I tied it in with another valve so I can shut off the actual filtration system. I got a sediment filter here. So all this rust is coming in from outside. I don't know what's going on with my city water supply, but I was having all kinds of problems with my fish doing water changes, city water. So I had to do something. So I tied it in. So now all my water for the entire house goes through a sediment filter, filters out all this rust. This is only about 3 months worth of rust too, by the way. Who knows what else this sediment filter is catching. It goes through a carbon block filter to take out organics and chlorine. And one thing I did, those who are thinking about doing this are going to be interested in this. I bought these, this is Schedule 80 nipples. Schedule 80 union tied directly in to the carbon block filter. I got a union on both sides so I can quickly change out this filter, which I shouldn't have to do except every 5 years. From there, it goes up and over to another sediment filter. Let me give you the full view here, if I can get that situated. And this sediment filter is to catch the carbon particles that get released from the carbon block filter. I was told, oh yeah, this is totally unnecessary. Well, look at how much carbon this is already caught. And this will end up in the back of your toilet bowl, in your fish tanks, anywhere that the water is dispersed in your house. It might even clog up your faucets. So look at all that carbon in about, it's honestly been about 4 or 5 months. So from there it comes up, and as you can see, my bypass is closed, so it goes through the filtration systems, up and over, and it feeds the entire rest of my house. So it goes up, over, all the way over here, and it tees off to my cold water supply, but basically it comes into my hot water supply over here. Yeah, so it's this filtered pipe comes into my boiler, which regulates the heat of it based on what's being called for in the house. So I have a boiler system. All of this basically heats my house. So I have filtered water coming in here into the boiler. Still getting used to this, sorry. Filtered water coming into the boiler, comes down through the entire boiler system, feeds all the zones in the house. These are all thermostat controlled. And I broke my basement apart into basement south, basement north, which is right here. Can't even really see my camera. And second floor, first floor. So that doesn't really matter. But what matters is the hot water pipe that comes out of this unit. You got cold water coming in, hot water coming out. Goes up, over, and then I got my cold water and my hot water, both filtered, coming into a mixing valve up here. This is an A.O. It's not A.O. Smith. Maybe you can read what it is. I forget at the time. It's not a super cheap mixing valve. It's about $80. But basically you tie your cold and your hot to that valve, and it's going to regulate the temperature to what you set it at. So there's a little Allen wrench up there. Not sure if you can see it. Let me zoom in on that. So if I turn that counterclockwise, it's going to decrease the temperature of the water. So what I did is tested the water coming out of it, adjusted the Allen wrench to get the water temperature that I want, which is about 78 degrees. So from here I have 78 degrees filtered water running down this pipe. Comes over to this setup that I did. So right here I have another bypass. This is also closed just like my filtration system. This comes through and filters through these two filters, which this was just a simple purchase online. Again, it's the same as my sediment filters on the other side of the room. These are 10-inch filters. This is just a sediment filter, and this is actually a Culligan carbon block filter, which is supposed to take more chlorine out. So I set this up before I actually set up my whole house water change carbon block filter. So this was all I had for my automatic water changes before I installed the other thing. So it runs down through the extra filters, back up, and then to my automatic water change system, which is all these valves. I still haven't tied my RODI system in yet, so totally disregard all of this. But my automatic water change system is separated into zones. Each one of these zones has two electronic wires for each solenoid. So each solenoid valve will tie back in to my Orbit sprinkler system. This zone, apparently, because I have no wires into it, zone 2 is not tied in. All the other zones are tied in with these wires down here. So what's nice about this Orbit system, and I'm not saying this is the best system you should use, it's the only one that I chose and it's the one that I used. But basically you have a neutral wire here, your COM wire, yellow. Yellow's tied into all of my valves that are actually actuated. So these black valves, so this is zone 3. One of these is tied into yellow. One of these is tied into yellow for 4. One of these for 5. One of these for 6. It's basically like a neutral wire. The rest of them tie into the actual zones that you program for your sprinkler. So you got 4, 5, and 6, and then those are all programmed through here. So it's 2 wires. One of them's a neutral wire that you tie all together. This would be my neutral connection right here. So you can see all the wires that are connected to that one single electric nut. Super simple. Don't be afraid of it. You can't really hurt anything on these. But basically, okay. I have this Orbit system set up so I can manually set each individual zone however I want. It's all Wi-Fi. What I basically do is I do 10 minutes per zone 3 times a day. Now, that's not exactly what I do, but it's pretty close. So imagine each one of these valves opens 10 minutes 3 times a day. Then it closes, then the next valve opens 10 minutes 3 times a day. And that's how I've programmed this with the Wi-Fi app. So right now what I'm going to do, so I just set it to all. And I can't really see my phone, so I can't see what you're seeing. But now I have 10 minutes. I'll hit that. So it's on station 1 right now. If I had station 1 plugged in, this valve would open for 10 minutes right now. But I don't have a station 1 plugged into this orbit sprinkler timer. So I'm going to skip that, skip zone 2, which has open wires. And once I hit zone 3, which will be this guy right here, that valve opens up. The water starts passing up through here, through the check valve, which is just a PVC 3/4 inch check valve, up into a really cheap pressure regulator. And I don't recommend these because these are actually hose connections. There's better pressure regulators that you can buy. They're actually FTP connections, which will tie directly into your PVC pipe. So you can see what I had to do here. I had to modify so that I could go hose connection to FTP connection up here. And it ended up costing me a lot of money in connectors just to make this work. This one right here, hose connection to FTP. If you could just get a pressure regulator that was cheap enough that would go FTP to FTP, this is like a $7 or $8 or $10 part. And so is this. These are brass modifiers. So plus this makes a lot more leak possibilities. I've had a lot of these leak throughout, and it is not ideal. So what I did is not ideal, but you shouldn't need this. But anyways, check valve, pressure regulator, up to the line. So 25 PSI is feeding into this line. And as an example, this is my auto water change for zone 3. So it comes over here and it feeds all these 29-gallon tanks. Let's see if I can give you a good close-up of what's actually taking place here. So I don't know if you can see that valve over there. The camera's kind of getting in my way. Let me move this. So let's try a different tank. I'm not sure if you saw that, but as an example right here. So I have those tied into every single tank. So the line comes across the ceiling. You can tie these in just like you do your air lines, PVC across. And then right here would be the automatic water change. I'm going to try to get it close up. So every single one of those nipples is threaded, and you can buy all that equipment on Gemco, and you can thread these valves. They're not even valves, they're just tie-ins. You can thread those right into your PVC. You can connect your normal aquarium tubing into it, and then down here you just have your air line that you can actually regulate the amount of water coming into the tank. So that much water for 10 minutes a day, 3 times a day, is what I'm feeding this 29-gallon tank. And so this is zone 3. Basically all my 29 gallons here. And I'm going to go over my zones with you guys just because you might be interested. Zone 5. Actually, this is zone 5, which would be my 75 gallons here. My 55 gallons over here are zone 5. So this line is all the same. This is zone 5. And also my 100 gallon down here with my Tropheus de Boisei. These guys get zone 5 also. And they love it. So that's one of my favorite fish right there. Zone 6. Zone 6, there's actually 2 lines that come across here. So Zone 5 is right here. Let me show you. And then Zone 6 is actually in front of it. So Zone 6 comes across, and that feeds all my 10-gallon tanks. So all these guys get a different amount of water change, which it's all pretty similar, but I have the valves cut back quite a bit on these, and I can cut back. It just makes it so it's much more modular. I can adjust my 10-gallon tanks. If I think they're getting too much water, I can adjust my big tanks. So for like Zone 5, I could increase this to 20 minutes very easily and give these tanks 20, twice as much water change as these tanks, even if I had the valves set at the same position, which currently I'm doing everything through the valves. It's probably overkill. But so that's Zone 5 and 6. We already saw 3. Zone 4 is actually my 75s over here. So this was the first zone I set up. These guys are all on Zone 4, which is a pipe that comes all the way across here and then ties in up. And all my 40 gallons are on Zone 4 as well. So that's how I set it up. It kind of built itself as time was going on. But that's it's basically what I'm doing right now. So so eventually I have 2 free zones. I'd like to bring one of them over for the RO water system, and then when I turn that zone on, I'd like it to feed the 180 gallon. So I'm going to run a pipe up and over and down here, and then I'm going to have a valve so I can do like massive water changes on the 180 gallons as well as the RO system. And then the other zone, Zone 1, in the very near future, will be for the 20 gallons and the 29s. So, hopefully, I see the video's already gotten pretty long. That's my automatic water change system. Real quick, let's go over it again. Your main line coming in, you got your main water supply, cold water in, goes through a sediment filter, carbon block filter, another carbon block filter. Mine goes up and over and tees off into my boiler system to heat my house, and it also, cold water tees off of that to come back up and over, and then my hot water to feed my entire house tees in. So these 2 pipes up here tie into my mixing valve, which regulates temperature, which comes back down and has a bypass for 2 more filters, an extra sediment, and an extra carbon block. This wouldn't be necessary, really, totally extra. So I can bypass that if I need to. Goes to my automatic water change system. You have a check valve to prevent damage from the valves when your water stops and comes rushing back in, which honestly I think these are unnecessary, because everything I have, all of my water lines are above grade. So when this actually stops, nothing's going to try to backflow back in. But it is a possibility, so these check valves are kind of nice. And then a pressure regulator to make sure if you don't pressure regulate your line, I got 60 pounds of pressure coming into this house. So if I don't drop it down to 25 pounds of pressure, I'm going to blow these little air lines and these little water lines off of these valves and tees. If I try to close off any of them, it becomes a huge mess. I've tried to do it, so you definitely need to regulate your pressure down to a lower pressure than your standard water pressure. So that's the one thing I can say is don't do it how I did it. You're going to spend extra money on fittings connecting this, which is garden hose to garden hose. This is the cheapest connector you can get. Spend a little more money and don't deal with these extra fittings and the extra leak points that are caused by them. And you should be good to go. That's basically it. Regulate your pressure down, have a check valve, have an orbit sprinkler system, and filter your water the best you can. And then Gemco or another supplier you can buy your taps for these. A little bit of silicone on the threads might help. I've done it both ways, but the silicone doesn't hurt. To put just a little bit of silicone with a toothpick around the threads, and you should be good to go. So this video's gotten long. This is my automatic water change system. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you stuck around to the end, like, comment, subscribe, super appreciate it. I hope you learned something, and my fish are super happy with my system, and I hope yours are too. So like, comment, subscribe, shoot me some love, and I'll make some more videos to help you guys out in the future. Cheers.